there's a fact that never fails to startle anyone working in the field of brain health. Myself included, our memory can decline much faster than we realize. Many people over 60 tend to think that forgetting names, mixing up dates, or losing focus is simply a normal part of aging. But what seems harmless at first may actually be an early warning sign that memory is slipping toward something far more serious. A number recently released truly shocked me. Nearly 42% of Americans over 55 may develop dementia in the coming years. And if today's trend doesn't change, the number of new cases is expected to double by 2060. These figures come from trusted institutions such as NYU Langone Health and the National Institute on Aging. This means that every family could face this challenge, whether with a loved one or even with themselves. The key point to remember is that dementia doesn't appear overnight. It usually begins with small signs, the kind that are easy to dismiss. Yet overlooking those early warnings costs us the golden window of time to act. When detected early, the brain still has a chance to protect itself. Nerve cells can continue functioning longer, and treatments including promising clinical trials are much more effective. In today's video, we'll break down why this risk is so high, what early warning signs we need to watch for, and most importantly, what we can do to protect memory before it's too late. If you find this topic meaningful, please give the video a like. Share it so more people can benefit. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay with us on the journey to preserving a sharp memory. And I'd love to ask you one question in your opinion. What's the very first sign of memory decline that people often ignore? Share your answer in the comments, because your experience may inspire and help many others. When we look at the latest statistics, it becomes clear that dementia is not something we can take lightly. A report from NYU Langone Health and the National Institute on Aging shows that nearly 42% of Americans over the age of 55 may develop dementia at some point in their lifetime. That's nearly half of the older population, a number that is not only concerning, but also reveals the true scale of the issue. To put it in perspective, imagine a group of 10 friends, all over 55. According to these statistics, 4 of them will face serious cognitive decline, potentially progressing to Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. That means the impact is not limited to individuals. It spreads to families, friends, and the entire healthcare system. And the forecast is even more troubling. Experts warn that if no interventions are made, by 2060, the number of new cases could double. The main driver is demographics. Our population is aging rapidly. As the number of people over 65 grows, dementia rates rise with it, creating a double burden, one for healthcare and another for society at large. Behind these numbers lies a domino effect. Dementia is not just about poor memory. It affects daily living. Everything from self-care and financial management to maintaining relationships. As memory fades, the burden often falls on loved ones, dragging down the quality of life for entire families. This is why public health organizations call dementia one of the greatest health challenges of the 21st century. What shocks me most, as a neurologist, is how few people are truly aware of this risk. Many still believe memory loss is just a normal part of aging, so they don't think to see a doctor when early warning signs appear. The truth is, Alzheimer's and other dementias are not inevitable consequences of aging. They have specific biological mechanisms, and we can slow them down or even prevent them if we act early. So let me pose this question. If you knew your risk of dementia was 42%, what would you do? Would you ignore it and hope to be in the other 58%? Or would you take charge and recognize the signs early to protect your memory? This is where we need a mindset shift. Don't wait until memory truly declines to start worrying. We must pay attention to the earliest signs. This number, 42%, is not just a warning. It's a reminder that every one of us plays a role in lowering our own risk. Diet, exercise, sleep, mental stimulation, and social connection. All of these shape the future of our brain health. If we neglect them, that 42% will become a reality. But if we act now, that number can go down. The 42% figure is enough to make anyone stop and think. But what's even more dangerous is the fact that so many people overlook the early warning signs, and that's where the golden opportunity to intervene is lost. This is the critical mistake we'll analyze in the next section. If the 42% statistic is a wake-up call, what's just as troubling is how often people ignore the early signals the brain is trying to send. Dementia doesn't begin with dramatic confusion or total memory loss. It often starts with subtle, almost invisible changes, the kind we dismiss as just normal aging. But in reality, these early shifts are the most important red flags. One of the most common early signs is mild memory impairment. This isn't the kind of small forgetfulness like misplacing your glasses and later finding them. It's the kind that disrupts daily life. For example, forgetting an important appointment, failing to pay bills that were once routine, or asking the same question repeatedly within a short conversation. These patterns show the brain is struggling to hold on to and process new information. Another early clue is slight disorientation. A person might suddenly feel unsure walking through a familiar neighborhood, get confused about the date or time of day, or even feel lost in places they've known for years. This points to early changes in the hippocampus, the area of the brain that controls memory and spatial navigation. We also need to pay attention to mood and emotional changes. Depression or mild anxiety often show up before memory problems become obvious. A person may become more irritable, lose interest in hobbies they once loved, or withdraw from social activities. These aren't just emotional struggles. They reflect biological changes in the brain, especially the decline of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. Social withdrawal is another key warning sign. As memory slips, some people avoid interactions out of embarrassment, afraid others will notice their confusion. Over time, they stop attending gatherings, talk less with family, or shy away from community events. This creates a dangerous cycle: the less social interaction, the less stimulation for the brain, and the faster memory declines. The real problem is that families often brush these signs aside. When a parent forgets, they'll say, "All older folks are like that." When a loved one goes out less, they assume it's just a personality shift with age. But this mindset causes the golden window of intervention to slip away. From a scientific standpoint, these early symptoms fall into a category called MCI, mild cognitive impairment. This is the stage between normal aging and dementia. Not everyone with MCI will develop Alzheimer's, but their risk is much higher. And crucially, at this stage, the brain still has reserve capacity. It can compensate and preserve function if the problem is recognized and supported early. Think of memory as a giant library. When healthy, the librarian is sharp, keeping everything organized and easy to find. With MCI, the librarian slows down, sometimes misplaces books, or forgets which new ones just arrived. If caught early, we can help that librarian with better tools, brighter lighting, and extra support. But if ignored, the library soon becomes messy and unmanageable. The takeaway is clear: these early warning signs must not be dismissed. Waiting until severe memory loss sets in means waiting too long. The earlier we notice and act, the more effective interventions can be, whether through lifestyle changes, nutrition, or emerging medical approaches. We've talked about the alarming numbers and the early signs that are often overlooked. But the most important point is not just knowing the risks. It's about what we can actually do once we begin to notice changes in memory. This is the decisive step in protecting the brain. And fortunately, there are many things completely within our reach, from seeing a doctor, checking simple factors, to making small lifestyle adjustments. When combined, these actions can create a solid armor for our memory. The key lies in shifting from a passive, wait-and-see attitude to a proactive one, with a few very concrete steps that are both safe and scientifically grounded. First is the initial diagnostic visit with a family doctor or neurologist. This appointment is not just for reassurance, but to record a systematic history tasks once easy that have now become difficult. When the changes started, whether they are steadily worsening or fluctuating, if there is daytime sleepiness, loud snoring, mood changes, or unexplained weight loss. The initial clinical evaluation often includes a brief cognitive test, such as the mini-cog, MMSE, or MOCA, to establish a baseline for future follow-ups, so we can know whether memory is stable or truly declining. Having an objective measure is the foundation for deciding the next steps. The next step is reviewing medications, because quite often memory problems come from the medicine cabinet itself. Drugs with high anticholinergic burden make the brain foggier. Examples include certain first-generation antihistamines containing diphenhydramine, bladder control drugs like oxybutynin, and some tricyclic antidepressants such as amitriptyline. Benzodiazepines used for sleep or anxiety can impair attention and the formation of new memories, and newer sleep medications, if used long-term, are not exempt. Opioid painkillers, alcohol, and combinations of multiple sedatives make matters worse. A doctor will help create a full list of all prescription drugs, over-the-counter products, and supplements being used, and consider safer alternatives with less cognitive impact. Simply optimizing medications can noticeably improve alertness for many people. Another important track is looking for reversible causes that need early correction. Basic blood tests often include a complete blood count to rule out anemia, thyroid function to detect hypothyroidism, vitamin B12 to avoid long-standing deficiency that causes numbness and sluggish thinking, blood sugar and HbA1c to identify prediabetes or diabetes, as well as liver, kidney, and electrolyte panels to detect metabolic issues. Vitamin D deficiency, hidden infections, or depression can also clearly worsen memory, but respond well when treated correctly. If there are focal neurological signs, sudden onset, marked personality change, seizures, or recent head injury, the doctor may order brain imaging, such as CT or MRI, to rule out structural damage or vascular disease. Sleep deserves to be placed on equal footing with medications in any strategy to protect the brain. Sleep apnea is a silent but common culprit in older adults, causing daytime sleepiness, morning headaches, resistant high blood pressure, and reduced attention. If screening shows high risk, a sleep study may be ordered, and treatments such as CPAP often improve alertness and memory over time. Even without apnea, setting a regular sleep schedule, reducing blue light before bed, avoiding alcohol in the evening, and adding gentle morning sunlight help the brain consolidate memories more effectively. Hearing and vision should be checked regularly because deficits here reduce sensory input, forcing the brain to strain and compensate, which over time weakens memory and attention. Proper hearing aids, correct eyeglasses, good lighting, and reducing background noise make conversations easier and provide natural cognitive stimulation. Along with this, screening and treating depression and anxiety are vital, because low mood not only reduces motivation for mental activity, but also directly affects the hippocampus, the brain's memory hub. Vascular health is the highway that nourishes the brain. So managing blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, body weight, and irregular heart rhythms like atrial fibrillation plays a central role. Specific targets are set by the physician, but the general direction is always clear. Follow a Mediterranean or MIND diet rich in leafy greens, berries, fatty fish, and olive oil. Cut down added sugars and ultra-processed foods. Maintain moderate daily activity with joint-friendly options like brisk walking, stationary cycling, light swimming, or yoga, and stop smoking while limiting alcohol. These changes protect not just the heart, but also the tiny vessels that feed memory regions. Alongside medical care, simple tools can help track progress and ease family anxiety. A small notebook or app to record significant memory lapses, the timing, surrounding circumstances, sleep quality, recent medication changes, and stress levels gives the doctor valuable insight into patterns and responses to interventions. Establishing fixed habits for important tasks, like always placing keys in one tray, labeling drawers, using a large wall calendar, setting alarms for medications, enlarging phone and clock displays, and simplifying the home environment are small but powerful ways to preserve independence. Family and loved ones are an irreplaceable line of defense. The careful observations of those who live together can catch subtle changes, such as drifting out of lane while driving, unusual spending, repetitive questions, or social withdrawal, going to appointments together, listening to the doctor's explanation, agreeing on support strategies, sharing responsibilities, and preparing safety plans such as emergency contacts, simplified financial management, kitchen safety checks, and fall-proofing the home reduce accidents and bring peace of mind to everyone. And if sudden symptoms appear, such as a drooping face, weakness on one side, slurred speech, unusual severe headache, or sudden confusion within hours, that is a medical emergency requiring immediate help because it may be a stroke. Many people wonder whether early diagnosis is useful since there is no absolute cure. But early detection opens 3 crucial doors. The first is optimizing reversible factors medications, sleep, nutritional deficiencies, and vascular conditions often leading to noticeable improvement. The second is access to treatments and monitoring programs designed for the early stage, when brain cells are better preserved and more responsive. The third is having time to organize life, continue favorite activities, plan legal and financial matters while still mentally sharp, and maintain quality of life and independence. Finally, the pace of change should match real life. Adjustments should be practical and sustainable, not overwhelming slogans. Scheduling a doctor's visit, adding 3 brisk walks a week, making one meal richer in vegetables and fish, setting a regular bedtime, or calling an old friend, each small step, when accumulated, builds a safer path for the brain. Careful but steady action is always the surest way to move out of the risk zone and into a safer place for memory. And in the next section, we will suggest a scientifically designed meal plan for people already living with Alzheimer's or older adults who want to prevent it. One of the simplest interventions that brings the clearest benefits for the brain is adjusting our daily meals. In reality, what we put on our plate 3 times a day can determine a great deal about our long-term memory health. That is why scientists have developed the MIND diet, a combination of the Mediterranean and DASH diets, both already proven to protect the heart and the brain. This diet emphasizes leafy greens, berries, fatty fish, olive oil, nuts, whole grains, and legumes. These foods are rich in antioxidants and omega-3 fatty acids, which help reduce inflammation, combat oxidative stress, and protect nerve cells. What makes the MIND diet stand out is that it's not just theory. Large studies following tens of thousands of older adults have shown that those who closely followed the diet had up to a 50% lower risk of Alzheimer's, and even those who followed it only moderately still saw their risk drop significantly. So what does a meal actually look like? Picture a lunch of lightly grilled salmon drizzled with olive oil and lemon, paired with a kale salad topped with roasted almonds and fresh blueberries. Add a slice of whole grain bread and finish with a kiwi or a handful of strawberries. This isn't just a tasty, easy-to-prepare meal. It's a nutrient package for the brain: omega-3s from the fish, polyphenols and anthocyanins from the berries, vitamin E from the almonds, plus fiber and vitamin K from the greens. Together, they work to calm inflammation, protect brain cells, and support memory. For those already showing mild cognitive impairment or early Alzheimer's, sticking to this diet consistently can help slow disease progression. The mechanism lies in antioxidants reducing damage to brain cells, omega-3s improving blood flow and neural connections, while fiber and micronutrients help control blood sugar and blood pressure, 2 major risk factors for dementia. It's also important to note which foods to limit. Fried foods, red meat, butter, sugary pastries, and soda are all linked to chronic inflammation and damage to brain blood vessels. This doesn't mean you must cut them out completely, but the less you consume, the more protection your brain receives. The good news is that change doesn't need to be extreme. Even without fully switching to the MIND diet, small steps like adding one more serving of leafy greens each day, swapping a red meat meal for fish, or choosing a handful of nuts instead of processed snacks can make a noticeable difference for brain health in the long run. Think of the brain as a garden. If each day it is watered with greens, berries, fatty fish, and nutrient-rich nuts, the garden will stay vibrant and flourishing. But if it is repeatedly poured over with grease and refined sugar, the garden will gradually dry out. We all have the choice of how to tend that garden, and the best time to start is with today's meal. At this point, we've nearly reached the end of today's journey. Looking back at each step, every section has added another piece to the larger picture of protecting memory after 60. We began with the number 42%, a stark warning that shows just how high the risk of dementia is and how cases could even double in the coming decades. Then we saw that this disease doesn't strike out of nowhere. It often begins with small signals like missing an appointment, losing your way in familiar places, or subtle emotional changes that are easy to brush off. Yet they are the earliest doorway to spotting the risk. We also discussed how, if recognized in its early stages, the brain still has a real chance to preserve its function. From medical interventions to small lifestyle changes, all of these can help extend clarity and quality of life. And finally, we highlighted that the most practical solutions are right within reach seeing a doctor when memory feels different. Reviewing medications, protecting sleep, staying socially connected, and especially nourishing the brain with the MIND diet rich in leafy greens, berries, fatty fish, and olive oil to build a solid foundation against cognitive decline. The message is clear: dementia is not an inevitable fate. We can absolutely take steps to protect memory and independence if we begin today. If you found today's content helpful, please hit like, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe so we can continue this journey together. And I'd like to ask you if you had to choose one habit to start today to protect your memory, what would it be? Leave your answer in the comments, because your choice might be the inspiration someone else needs.